as we wait now for the light to go red and green again. Ross Cheever with an incredible lap lines up just ahead of Senna, who was only a couple hundredths away from Ross Cheever his time, and they get underway at Suzuka here. 51 laps to go, and Cheever with a really good start, and also Keiji Matsumoto for Minardi managing to get past on Senna for just a split second, but I think Senna will try to regain the lead as they're still side by side going through the S-curves. And Matsumoto slots in behind. Now as we take a look further back, it will be Alain Prost with Emerson Fittipaldi. Then comes Kazuyoshi Yoshino, is actually showing his nose there. And we take a bit further look back. Nigel Mansell with a really good start up into 12th position. And after that comes Al Unser Jr. Then comes Mika Hakkinen, who actually dropped back a little bit because I think he qualified in 12th. And ooh, there's a collision going into the hairpin. Collision, but no one losing the front wing. And no damage done so far, I think. At the moment, Jeff Brabham coming in to replace the youngster Irvine. I think there was some stories going around that Irvine has attended a training camp, and manager Arnold electing to run Brabham to not unnecessarily injure young Irvine. Let's see here, side by side into 130R, but Nigel Mansell doesn't get the better of Nelson Piquet, as that March car does seem to have some good straight line speed here in the second part of the season. Oh, and there's a bit of a collision there. Oh, collision, big collision going into the chicane, and everyone. Oh, and a big hop by one of the Williams cars there. But everyone does seem to get underway again, so not too big of an issue. René Arnoux managing to get out unscathed as well. Now we have Stefan Johansson fighting with Eddie Cheever as they head through the S-curves. Eddie Cheever, or it was Stefan Johansson and Mika Hakkinen, sorry. And Eddie Cheever will be looking to get onto the back of Bernd Schneider in front, the young German who has been well, performing quite admirably throughout the season. He's not scored any points, but he shows some really good potential, and obviously we don't expect him to exactly get points in that Zach Speed car, but yeah, he's definitely tipped off to be one of the better youngsters of them all, and I'm sure Eddie, the manager, will be looking to retain Bernd for the next season, but we will see how that all plays out. Of course, there will be a whole new driver pool for next year, and we'll get to see what the managers decide to do. Will they elect to retain some of their drivers? Will they elect to go for a whole new lineup? We'll have to see. Obviously, contract negotiations can be tough, but yeah, we will just see how that plays out for next season. And obviously, there is some rumors going around. For instance, for Williams, squad hasn't really performed where they need to be. Similar with Arrows, and yeah, big question, of course, being if some of these teams who don't have the biggest funds available, Williams does, of course, after winning that championship last year. But there's always some doubt creeping in to everyone's mind when, for instance, Williams goes from a championship winning car to being very much at the back of the field. And Mika Hakkinen with a transmission failure at a very high speed section, but he does manage to pull off and not hinder anyone. But unfortunately, that will be the Ligier out, and Mika Hakkinen, another one of the rookies that has performed pretty admirably. Not had a lot of finishes, so maybe his inexperience coming into play when it comes to F1, because obviously a lot of these youngsters aren't really used to having to really manage the car until the end, you know. F1 requires a lot of that, especially when you're in not one of the top cars. So let's say, well, Ligier actually has a pretty good car, but still every car needs to have some managing going on. And now Theo Fabi on the straightaway. You can see the back right tire lifted up. He's been, well, really unfortunate, I feel, this season. But that Ferrari has really struggled with reliability. And unfortunately for Theo Fabi, that is now the case again, and he will pull off in turn 1, which is kind of a dangerous track. One of the fastest entries of the entry of a corner of the track. So yeah, one Ferrari out, one Ligier out. Back to Mika Hakkinen. Yeah, it's the young guys that usually don't yet know how to quite baby the car until the end, because there's a lot of factors that go into getting one of these cars until the end. It's managing your brakes, you know, sometimes saving the engine, saving the tires even, and you really have to be meticulous in how you treat these cars, because although it looks like they are very sturdy and they're built for this kind of thing, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, especially with some of the new, you know, electronic components being introduced to the cars now. It's yeah, very tricky for some of the teams here. Stefan Johansson still in 15th. Bernd Schneider in front of him, doing good, pretty good again. And then we have the two Tyrrells in 12th and 13th. Alonso Jr. trying to hunt down Nigel Mansell, and he is looking pretty pacey. The Tyrrells look pretty good in free practice and qualifying. So, yeah. Alonso Jr. trying his best, of course, to catch up to that, what is that, a teal car, I guess the Leighton House would be. And Nelson Piquet in 10th, of course, and it's not expected to do very well on this track, even though he's still in 10th. Piquet, that's more the driver than the car, I believe. They're still one of the lowest horsepower cars, at least that's being rumored in the paddock, but I think it's quite obvious on the straights. Maybe along with the Williams. They are probably the ones that struggle the most on the straightaways. And, well, as you know, the back straight going into 130R and then start-finish straight, they're all really high power even after the hairpin. So a good half part of the lap is full throttle. And Danny Sullivan making his way up into 9th on the 5th lap. Alberto Moreno doing really good here in 8th position. Again, Moreno, one of those drivers that feels like he deserves more, doesn't it? He's been doing pretty good this whole season in what is not an ideal car to be in. And yeah, it just kind of feels that Moreno deserves a little bit better. As I think if we look back at the previous, let's see, round 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, all DNFs for Moreno and Johansson. Well, Johansson finishing twice in those last 6 rounds, so clearly the Arrows still struggling and trying to find out how they can improve the reliability of the car, because it has shown good pace at times. And well, we can see it again. Moreno in 8th. He's just outside the points. You know, he's behind the likes of the Lotus, the Ligier, the Ferrari, the Minardis. So those are all the well, the top of the bunch, aren't they? So to be right behind them is ideal, but it's a matter of getting to the finish. Meanwhile, we have Satoru Nakajima hunting down his fellow countryman Kazuyoshi Hoshino. Japanese duel in Japan, and then obviously a bit in front of them we have Keiji Matsumoto. So three home drivers here today, which obviously for the crowd is always exciting to see their fellow countrymen performing, and well, a lot of them are doing really well. Well, they're all doing really well, actually, you know. 2 Japanese drivers in the top 6 and 1 just outside of it, so I'm sure as they come past the start-finish straight here, you can hear them roaring every time Nakajima, Hoshino, or Matsumoto comes by. Now let's take a bit of a look further back. We have Alain Prost trying to make some gains on Senna ahead of him. And of course, the big talking point here in round 15, 1 round from the end. Alain Prost only needing 1 point to steal the championship. I guess technically it could still be possible if he doesn't... Well, if he gets 1 point and he wouldn't win the next round anymore, then you know, the championship would still be in play for Emerson Fittipaldi, but it's very unlikely, as he would need to get a win here and a win in the next round to overclass the wins of Prost so far this year. And Jeff Brabham, unfortunately, gets back in the car, but the car doesn't want him to get back in, and yeah, he was gonna drop out with what seems to be a water leak, looking at the white smoke coming from the back of that car. So yeah, very unfortunate for Jeff. He gets the chance to round off the season, and he'll have 1 more round after this, of course. But yeah, Williams also one of those cars struggling with both pace and reliability. So yeah, we can only hope that they survive this year going into the next, and then hopefully we'll see them back on the grid. But right now it isn't looking too great, as we have a bit of a fight here going on between Thierry Boutsen and René Arnoux. Arnoux really also one of those drivers, hasn't quite managed to keep up the pace with where the car should be. You know, if we look at his teammate Nelson Piquet, who's nearly 20 seconds ahead of Arnoux, the difference in driver quality is unfortunately very clear at Benetton, and maybe they'll be looking to do some roster updates for next season. Meanwhile, Michael Andretti, a bit in no man's land. He's just managing that Tyrrell, and his teammate Alonso Jr. just ahead of him. Alonso Jr. in that red and white Marlboro sponsored helmet. The helmet really stands out as a in contrast to the black and yellow car, mainly black, of course. So, yeah, he's just managing in 12th. Nigel Mansell in front, doing really well in the March. Down in 11th, a bit removed from Nelson Piquet. There in the background. Then comes Danny Sullivan. He's desperately trying to make up his way past Moreno, as he's, I think, slowly catching up. Let's see here. Last lap times, so 47.4 for Moreno, as we'll come across the line here again, I think. 47.4 for Moreno and 47.5 for Sullivan, but I think they've been swapping times here and there, so might be a close fight between these two. take a look further back again. Nakajima, quite close, 8 tenths between him and Hoshino, but also seems to be swapping times with him. Not quite enough pace to get right onto the back of him, but he is sure trying to get inside those points-paying positions. And Hoshino, obviously, one of the big performance, I think he's kind of gone under the radar because, I mean, obviously we know Hoshino to be a quality driver, but I think sometimes the Japanese drivers are, you know, in general, the drivers not from the, are considered to be the big motor racing countries like Brazil and the UK. They kind of, yeah, they kind of get overshadowed a bit, and a lot of people might not realize this, but Hoshino is third in the Drivers' Championship, and Ligier is also third in the Constructors' Championship, which obviously was a big surprise. And we have here Nakajima with what seems to be a tire puncture pulling off just by the chicane there. Tries to get the car stopped, and he does, but yeah, but Marshall's there coming onto the track to remove his car. And unfortunately, the Lotus proving once again to have some reliability issues. But yeah, decent effort from Nakajima. Unfortunately, that will end for him. Of course, the puncture can be an unlucky thing. It's not like that is really down to car being unreliable. He might have just ran over a little bit of debris somewhere, or, well, you don't know, maybe pushed the car a little bit too hard in some of these fast corners, or just had a bad set of tires. All possibilities. Oh, big news here. Brake issue for Emerson Fittipaldi. He's going slow.
Try and get back.
And we'll have to see now. He's only about halfway through the lap. And there comes Kazuyoshi Hoshino up into 5th now. And with that happening, that increases the chance of Alain Prost becoming the World's Drivers' Championship here even more. Or the World's Drivers' Champion, I should say. And I think it is a case as well, if McLaren scores more than, what is it? I think, if McLaren here score a win, or they're score quite a bit of points, they ooh, here. Oh no, is Emerson Fittipaldi gonna pull off? I think he is. So he's not gonna make it to the pits, and it's right there. I'm wondering if he couldn't have coasted in, but with the main championship contender or rival not finishing here today, that almost guarantees the world championship here for Alain Prost. And Stefan Johansson now coming in with another issue, throttle issue. And he's gonna come in for a pit stop. Now see, tires being put on, that issue being resolved. So he hasn't, not a long pit stop, only 4 seconds, so it's not a full service. Just to resolve that little issue. He wasn't inside the pit window yet, can't go until the end. Jeff Lees, meanwhile, onto the back of Eddie Cheever. And actually, Jeff Lees showing some good pace in that Williams. I think another one of those drivers that has kind of flipped under the radar, because even though it might not look like it, I think Jeff Lees and well, even Jeff Brabham and Eddie Irvine did extract quite a bit of pace from the Williams. I don't think a lot of people realize how down on power and aero that car actually is. So not bad of a driver, Jeff Lees, and Rene Arnoux has separated himself now from Eddie Cheever. And Utzon is, well, just ahead of him. I think the Zach Speed has some straight line advantage. So they're performing, yeah, really well, 12th and 13th. And obviously there has been talks going on about maybe next year the FIA might elect to change the point scoring system. So instead of going having a top 6 point scoring system, we might be moving to a top 8 point scoring system. And in that case, both Roberto Marino and Nelson Piquet would be scoring points here today. And in general, I think it will just give some of the lower end teams a bit more to fight from, and well, they'll be able to separate themselves a bit more from each other. As now there has been plenty of the lower ranked teams finishing in 7th and 8th, but obviously not getting rewarded for it. And then at the end of the season, even though they've not scored any points, they might have performed a lot better than some of their competitors. I think that is what the FIA is trying to impose here, is rewarding some other teams a bit more and trying to make a clear difference between performance in them. Hoshino, yeah, still carrying on quite well in 5th. Keiji Matsumoto, the second minority, in 4th place. Alain Prost running solidly in 3rd. Not quite enough pace to catch up to Prost, to Senna, it seems. Let's check their lap times. But yeah, pretty much dead on the same. There's 12 hundredths between them, I think. Or is that thousands? Yeah, 12 thousandths between them in lap time. So yeah, there's nothing to separate these two very great drivers. But that being said, obviously Prost is heading to his 3rd World Championship, I believe, while Senna, he was tipped to be the great favorite of this year, and a lot of people believe that he would be able to pick up his first championship, but obviously we all know how it went, and unfortunately the Lotus hasn't provided him with a good enough car to challenge for that championship. And Rene Arnoux now going slow. Another failure here at Suzuka. We know the lap is quite taxing, as there's a lot of full throttle sections, but Arnoux, fortunately in the Benetton, will be dropping out, and in a similar position to where I think Mika Hakkinen had to pull over his car. So yeah, the marshals now coming onto the track. They will get that car out of the way with the crane as it gets lifted over the barrier. With the danger averted there. But meanwhile, let's talk about Ross Cheever. Nearly 10 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna, and well, we know how good the Minardi is on high-speed tracks, on high-power tracks mainly. But well, Ross Cheever extracting the most out of it, and he's got a 16-second deficit, or a 16-second lead on his teammate Matsumoto. So not only the car that's performing well, it is the driver. And well, I know Minardi has been spending a lot of time and effort into training their young driver. Ross Cheever has been known to attend a lot of training camps over the year, and he's well, Minardi has been fully supporting this young driver, this young American, to get where he needs to be, and well, it looks like that's paying off, as he's in first, and he's every chance he has gotten by Minardi he has taken, and he's really performed well. And yeah, obviously I think he's one to watch for the future, Ross Cheever. And I'm sure when it comes to his siblings, Eddie Cheever, he'll also be glad to see that that Ross is doing such a fantastic job. That's yeah, definitely quite a standout driver here. And well, to me personally, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him pick up a championship somewhere in the future. It wouldn't be unlikely if he gets the right team, finds the right match, where the car can finish most race distances and has enough pace and quality and the race. Then yeah, he has a good shot at it. I'm sure as if we look, he's only had a couple of drives, Ross Cheever, but I think he's pretty high up in the standings. So yeah, he's only had about, I think this is his 6th drive of the season, but he is in 12th in the championship standings, I think. Oh, he's in 14th actually. I was just recounting there. Some of the standings weren't quite correct, or some of the numbering on the standings wasn't quite correct. But yeah, he's given Minardi an extra. Here he's given them an extra 7 points. Obviously, has put them past Lotus and keeps them in a challenging distance to Ligier. And oh, disaster there as Michael Andretti with a suspension failure. Andretti unfortunately gonna pull out of the race here, and shame to see Cyril pulling out. And yeah, the Tyrrells in general actually have been pretty decent on the reliability. Looking at the finishes, especially Michael Andretti, he's I think finished more than half of his races, which is actually a pretty good finishing rate for most of the season here if we compare that to some of the other teams. Most of the other teams finished less than half of the races, so obviously some of his DNFs might have been in good positions to score some points, but I think in general that Tyrrell car is holding up pretty well, even though they're obviously one of those teams working with a little bit less resources than opposed to, let's say, McLaren or Ferrari. Yeah, they've made the most of it, and I think if they can steadily improve over the next years, they might be a force to reckon with. Obviously, we know Tyrrell used to be Brabham, and some of the some rumors going around as well that Tyrrell might be looking to cooperate with the Brabham name again for next season. We will have to see, of course, if anything comes to fruition, that deal. And yeah, Ayrton Senna still in second, actually. Well, still about a similar distance between him and Prost, so we will have to wait until the pit stops to see if one team can trick the other. And Matsumoto also running in no man's land in between Prost and Hoshino. McLaren Ligier sandwich, and then Danny Sullivan actually has now made his way up into 6th. Very well done by the second McLaren. And well, as it stands, both of the Ferraris out, and does mean that both of the McLarens, if they do finish, they will extend that gap in the Constructors' Championship. And as it stands, it might be an extra 5 points for the McLarens. which would put them, let's see, which put them 13 points ahead. And it would make it very hard for Ferrari to even do something about that in the last race. And then I think I have reports here that Alonso Jr. went off the track somewhere. So a driver mistake from Alonso Jr. and his car is heavily damaged. They had to remove it from the circuit. That is both of the Tyrols out. So yeah, very unlucky here today for Tyrrell. That'll be the end of their Japanese adventure. Meanwhile, we still have Ross Cheever in the lead, Ayrton Senna in second. Then comes Alain Prost, Keiji Matsumoto running in a very nice 4th position. Then comes Hoshino in 5th. And then Danny Sullivan, so both of the McLarens in the points. Then Moreno not too far off of Sullivan, only 1.2 seconds ahead. And actually, let's look at their last lap time. So Moreno a 47.7. With Sullivan only... Yeah, Sullivan only, what is it? Half a second, not half a second, half a tenth faster. So only, yeah, six or so hundredths in between them. So yeah, it seems like Sullivan and Moreno are swapping times as well. And it might come down to the pit stop phase. I think we only expect one pit stop here for the teams. It's definitely the most optimal since it's such a such a track with such long straights for most of it. And ooh, now we have some issues for Keiji Matsumoto. Seems to be struggling with some electrics as we hear over the radio. And is he gonna come in? Yes, I think he is coming into the pits. So early pit stop for Matsumoto. The question now being, of course, can he get that issue fixed? And most importantly, how does that affect his pit stop cycle? Does he have to make another pit? Let's see. It's quite a short pit stop here. If only the tires go on and he comes out pretty fast. Yeah, I think he will have to make another pit stop. So that's going to make it quite interesting here as he will exit behind, let's see, does exit in front of PK and will be behind Moreno, but on fresh tires, of course, so shouldn't take long for Matsumoto to catch up back to Moreno. But that does now mean, obviously, that Hoshino was promoted into 4th pretty comfortably. And also Sullivan into 5th, Moreno into 6th, but I think it is highly unlikely that Moreno holds on to 6th here. The pace that Matsumoto displayed before. Surely with some fresher tires, shouldn't be much of an issue for Matsumoto to get past. 20 laps in here, 5 more to go to get to just about half race distance. Actually, we'll have to do 26, but getting up to the halfway stage. 13 runners still remaining. Although the races have been very enjoyable, there has been very big dropout rates throughout the races. So maybe hinting towards most of the teams not really spending too much on reliability and only trying to work on performance, but maybe that is the way to go with some of these cars. Try to make it fast and then hope it lasts until the end. That could be a strategy, I'm not sure. We now see, here comes Matsumoto with that straight line speed advantage. Goes side by side. And yeah, easy move for Matsumoto. Now Moreno will try to maybe hold on to the back of him for just a little bit, try to catch some of the slipstream and gain a little bit of time for his competitors. And ideally, obviously, for ideally for Moreno, obviously, Matsumoto would have a little bit of a scrap with Sullivan. That would invite Moreno into the fight with Sullivan, as there's not much between them. All he needs to do is pick up some slipstream, but we'll see here as Matsumoto tries to make his way up, and I think, well, PK is not too far either if you look on board. So yeah, these guys, some good stuff. Meanwhile, Nigel Mansell for March running inside the top 10. So is Zach Speed's Bernd Schneider. And meanwhile, Jeff Lee is also running up into a lofty P11. And he has Stefan Johansson right behind him. We obviously know Johansson making that pit earlier. He had, I'm not quite sure what issue, I think it was a throttle issue if I remember correctly. He's doing his best, trying to get past this Williams, which I think once he gets a straightaway here, oh, he is on the outside, but even then, just a big power deficit the Williams has to that Arrows, and goes now as at least we'll try to stay inside of the slipstream here. Can he do it? Yes, I think he does still have it, just about. That will probably mean that fight is over. And here comes Matsumoto now. So Matsumoto right onto the back of Sullivan. Question now being, will he overtake into the hairpin? Does he have enough overspeed, as that might hold Sullivan up? Let's see. Is there a move here? No, not quite. Not quite. So will it be right here? We know the McLaren isn't exactly a slouch on the straight. Matsumoto will go around the outside, and that turns into the inside for the spoon curve, and Sullivan not being held up enough for Moreno to come close. And Matsumoto now streaking off into the distance. Do keep in mind he has to make an extra pit stop, so they're fighting for net positions here. Matsumoto now comes through. There will be Kazuyoshi Hoshino. And as I go to get a beverage, I will put you on board with Ross Cheever for a couple of laps. And well, let's hope he doesn't DNF in the meanwhile. But we'll be right back with commentary as I get a little drink. come back here. Oh, I see throttle issue for Alain Prost, making him come back into the pits early, losing a bit of time. Got back into 4th, but I do believe he's inside the pit window. So, no extra pit stop, I don't believe, for Prost, but quite a big time loss. Has come out of the pit now in 8th position. That might have caused them to lose a position or two. You can definitely see on those fresh tires, he's putting quite a bit of pace in, so yeah, he can run until the end now, Prost, and yeah, we will see how the competitors will respond. Eiji Matsumoto still in 4th, Hoshino in 3rd now, and Senna 2nd, 14 seconds behind Ross Cheever, our leader of the race for Minardi. Danny Sullivan now getting the pit call as well, which Prost is about 10 seconds behind him, so we'll get a good indication of how much time is in the pit stop. Now in 6th, 7th will be PK, and here comes Prost now as he's hunting down those two in front, but obviously if they make a pit stop, they'll be behind Prost again. That wouldn't be too big of an issue for the Frenchman. Yeah, what can we say about Prost? He's managed this season perfectly, and, well, incredibly, he's only DNF'd 3 times this entire season. So I'm not sure what McLaren has done to that car, but it's a pretty incredible feat, and might not only be the car, of course. Prost's experience will definitely come into play to get that car until the end, and I think Danny Sullivan retiring in the last 5 races. I was just thinking about it as well, and maybe it also helps that Prost is towards the front for most of these races. He seems to not get in trouble as much as maybe some of the mid-runners and some of the cars at the back, so that might also be a contributing factor to his rate of finishing. Yeah, outside of that, every race Prost has been in this season where he hasn't DNF'd, he's scored points. And well, there's some other neat kind of features, and that is Emerson Fittipaldi, of course. He's in 2nd in the Drivers' Championship, and even though he's DNF'd more races, he has finished on the podium every time he finished a race. So that is a pretty cool statistic, or a pretty cool fact about this season. And now comes in Kazuyoshi Hoshino. He is about 20 seconds ahead of Prost. So we'll see now how much time that pit stop takes out. See, 10, 11, 12 seconds, 12.9 seconds. Here comes Prost down the straightaway, so you will get ahead of those cars again. I am obviously wondering still if maybe Prost has made a shorter pit stop. That could be the case. I don't think he has, but interesting to see now how Hoshino deals with this, as obviously he will have the fresher tires. Be interesting to see if he can challenge Prost for a position. And PK is just ahead of Prost, and well, Matsumoto has already. Oh no, he's only made 1 pit stop, so that was for that initial issue he had. So he's also about 20 or so seconds, 17 maybe, ahead of Prost. So it might mean that Prost might still end up in 3rd position anyway. Nigel Mansell now getting the pit call as well. So does Ayrton Senna. But Nigel Mansell doing pretty good here. Running in 7th, so he just needs a little bit of luck here to score, get some points. But obviously, if he makes this pit stop, he will drop back quite a bit. But I think managing pretty well, and well, I'm not sure, but last time around we saw some antics of Mansell with him refusing to pit, and ended up with him losing loads of time. And I'm not sure how Cozy, the team manager, dealt with that, but yeah, it was very questionable by Mansell, and we don't know what's being said behind those the March doors. Yeah, it was just a very interesting happening there. And yeah, Mansell now coming out of the pits in 11th, I believe. I don't think Boutsen is close enough, as Boutsen and Lees are actually in this this battle that just seems to be lasting, as Lees just seems to have a little bit more in the corners as opposed to Boutsen having more in a straight line. As we will probably see this here now, as we come onto the straightaway, we'll probably see Boutsen in the slipstream pulling past into turn 1 again. Here he comes, as opposed to that Williams, who actually topping out a bit in 5th gear, maybe not enough oomph to go to 6th gear there, but can't quite get past. And now let's see here, Alain Prost now in a battle with PK, but PK obviously still needs to pit, and he will come in this lap. As we can see now, Senna now coming out ahead, right ahead, sorry, out of the pits in front of Matsumoto. So they'll be very glad that pit stop has worked out the way it did, and probably some good strategic work from Lotus there, as Senna manages to come out ahead there. And now Cheever gets the pit call, one of the last cars to pit. Actually, the last car to pit, because Bernd Schneider is already coming in. Schneider now coming in from 10th position, and he will drop behind Nigel Mansell, so Nigel Mansell up inside the top 10 again. But Bernd Schneider with a tire advantage towards for the last part of the race, as we see Ross Cheever there coming in now as well. Let's see how the Minardi boys do for his pit stop. Oh, let's see if the times are comparable. Comes in quite long, actually, 11 seconds, so quite a long pit stop for Cheever, but he will be able to go until the end, and some nice and fresh tires. Shorter stint here, and he does come out ahead of the back markers. And now it is a very clean run, as he'll only have to do 22 laps on these tires, and he went 28 laps on the first set, so he can just go into full push mode and try to extend that gap even more. And Senna now not exactly dropping Matsumoto. I do think he has a little bit more pace over him, but yeah, Matsumoto giving him a good run of the money. Oh, and now the Zach speed. So Boutsen, just having made his pit stop a couple laps ago, Smoke now coming out of the back. Oh, and the engine completely cuts out, so... Man, quite curious there. Maybe it was because of the pit stop, or his car might have been stationary for a bit and the engine temps just went up and he wasn't able to get them down again after that pit stop, so... Might have been running that radiator a little bit too hot. And yeah, unfortunately for Boutsen, that means the end of his race here on the 29th lap, as the marshals are waving the yellow flags there. But that does mean now Jeff Lees is in clean air. And, well, not like he's in a position to fight anyone soon, but like we said before, sometimes you just need to get your car till the end. And I'm sure that's what Lees is gonna try and do, as we have 12 runners remaining. Ross Cheever still in first now, and this will be his first flying lap, so let's just see if he can improve his time. So 45.1 is his best lap right now. But should obviously improve on that, as he's on a lower fuel load now, fresher tires. And wow, he is looking incredibly fast here as we see him going through. So Minardi, when it comes to performance, really delivering a top-notch car, and Ross Cheever making full use of that. Those sectors are looking pretty fast. Let's see here what Cheever can pull out of the bag as he comes into the last chicane. Up across the curbs there, and he runs to the line. Let's see what kind of lap he pulls out. Is it faster than his fastest lap so far? 45.1 again, so almost right on the money for his previous fastest lap, and maybe in the next couple of laps we'll see him do a faster time. Yeah. Here, and take a look here as, well, actually, kind of not making too much progress on Matsumoto. If we take a look at their last laps. So yeah, about half a second in it for the last lap. So not too much, but doesn't look like Matsumoto is going to be troubling Prost or Senna anytime soon. And Prost still on course to win the Drivers' World Championship here, as he's inside the points. And well, Ferrari would obviously be hoping for him to DNF or be outside of the points, because that would give them at least some chance, I guess. But it wouldn't, because there's only one race left, of course. So yeah, it is pretty much a done deal here. Yeah, it is a done deal, because there's no way in the last round Fittipaldi can catch up anymore to Prost, so regardless if Prost finishes, he will be the Drivers' Champion here today. Bit of a shame it has to end in this way, but it's been a long fight until it was decided. So only one race from the end, so good to see a battle, but unfortunately Ferrari didn't quite have the complete package to deal with McLaren this year, and McLaren obviously being powered by that Honda, and that has, well, it seems at least that has done them really well for the season, especially for Prost. But yeah, you're looking at your world champion of 1988. Sure, he will try to get the car until the end, but I'm sure at the end of the race McLaren will come over the radio, and they won't be bothering him now. Being the world champion, I'm sure they'll just let him drive and focus. But, yeah. With that being said, I think if Prost scores 3 points here, that would mean 82 points for McLaren, which put them 11 ahead of Ferrari, which would basically mean that they would need Ferrari would need a win, so a P1 next race, and then on top of that, they would need another, another 2 points. So they would need a 5th position out of Fabi, probably. 1st position and 5th position out of Fabi, but that is also taking into account that Danny Sullivan doesn't score any points here this race, so it'll be interesting to see if Prost can finish up even higher, because that way they could make it almost virtually impossible for Ferrari to get the constructors, unless they obviously get a 1-2 in the next race. But we will have to see about that. One thing is for sure, Prost is the third time world champion this season, 1988. And I think there's a bit of a fight going on here between Sullivan and PK. So PK definitely trying his best to deny Sullivan of any points. And there comes Moreno as well. So these three fighting for that last point paying position. So we can go on board maybe a little bit with Roberto Moreno. Still looking at the distance here, but I think PK is slowly catching that McLaren in front, and I think the hope for Moreno here is that those two start battling, and then he can get into the mix as well. Both of the arrows still running so far, so Johansson in 10th, Moreno in 8th. The arrows, they looked pretty good in the first part of the season. They actually were usually inside of the points for most races. But in the second half of the season, they've been struggling a bit more. Some of the other teams have become a bit more prominent and really worked out their development strategy, I guess. It has caused a little bit of trouble for arrows. Oh, as PKO showing his nose on the inside there of Sullivan. He's definitely faster, but he just has to find the right way in. Oh, there goes the engine. There goes the engine of Nelson Piquet. Smoke coming out of the back. A big issue now for the Benetton. As he was trying that move, the engine just said no, and not sure, but that is probably the end of the Benetton team for this race. Comes around spoon curve. Let's see. Does it have a little bit of life left in it? Trying to kick it back to the pits, I believe, maybe. If he can manage to get inside the pits, obviously it's not a guarantee that the team can do anything about it, but comes through the chicane now. Does he still have some life left in it? Oh, but he's not. I don't think he's aware that he's losing the engine, so he doesn't even pull inside of the pits. And yeah, there it goes. So I'm sure it would have cut out before he even reached this pit box. But yeah, very unfortunate here for PK. And there comes Nigel Mansell in the background. Let's hope PK doesn't get into the way. Oh, and he does. He does. Big collision there as PK was very slow on the racing line. And, well, obviously, Nigel Mansell didn't expect to be closing that fast on the Benetton in front. And he's lost his front wing. That could have been a lot worse, but obviously, PK involved in such a big accident. Car running right into the back of him, and let's hope he doesn't get injured. But, yeah, that was a big hit for the Benetton squad. And let's hope PK is fine. I can't quite lock the camera on him, but yeah. Very, very big hit. Obviously, PK was out of the race already, but now there's an injury risk for him. And Nigel Mansell, very unfortunately, obviously it's one of those, it would be hard to judge, because you never expect the car to be so slow on the racing line, and I do think PK should have pulled off of the track a bit sooner there. Now we will see Mansell, as he's a bit slow now, he will have to come into the pit as Ross Cheever now comes onto the back of him. And let's hope nothing happens between them. Oh my goodness. Cheever doesn't wait around, makes it straight past the march. And let's follow Mansell into the pits here. So very fortunate for Mansell to still be in the race, to be honest. Only losing his front wing. Here we go. Comes in now, they'll fit some fresh tires. Get that new front wing on. There he goes, and he goes 6 seconds lost. He will be on fresh tires though, so maybe he has a chance of running down the likes of Schneider and Johansson. I don't think Moreno, but yeah. Oh yeah, here it is. So a pit call here for KG Matsumoto. So we do know Matsumoto had an issue early on. So he had to pit before the pit window was really a thing. I think he pitted already on lap somewhere between lap 10, 15. So yeah, it would have been a really long stint for him to complete. So Minardi now calling him in for his second pit stop, and he's about 17 or so seconds in front of Prost. But I do believe he should be on really fresh tires here when he comes into pit, and he should be able to make that time up to Prost in front of him. And I'm sure Matsumoto can fight for the podium here. Not sure what the time loss is. He might come out ahead, just ahead of Hoshino, or just behind, I'm not sure. But we will follow him into the pits, as Cheever, the first Minardi, still running decently. And, well, more than decently, of course, 22 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna, so pretty incredible. So Matsumoto now coming into the chicane, and man, is that Minardi fast. So now comes into the pits. Let's see Now that goes. So a Minardi squad ready there with the tires. You can see them waiting on, and let's see how long this pit stop is actually. I'm interested to see. Here he comes into the pits. Tires off. New tires on. Shouldn't be too long. Yeah, only 7 seconds, so... There comes Prost now. You can see in the distance there is Hoshino. Can Matsumoto come out ahead? It would be ideal. Yes, he does. So a nicely timed pit stop by the Minardi squad. And now Matsumoto can go into full attack. Only 13 laps to go. So he doesn't have to save the tires. He can just go out, push the car to the limit. And hunt down Alain Prost. And actually now Katsuyoshi Hoshino reporting issues. You can hear them calling over the radio. Just try to nurse the car back as and maybe throttle getting stuck or just not getting any good input from the no good throttle response as he's going very slow now. And I'm sure that will allow Danny Sullivan to catch up. Even Roberto Moreno, so that means Moreno and Sullivan will be fighting for the last point paying position. Yeah, he's losing time hand over fist now. Let's just try and follow him. Oh, he's not even gonna make it back to the pits, so yeah, Hoshino just pulling off. He's not gonna make it back. And yeah, the marshals will have to clear his car as his tire there unfortunately comes off as he goes off of the track, but that does mean Danny Sullivan is now on his way. Oh, and nearly hits that tire. Does Moreno hit it? Oh, Moreno hits the tire! Oh no! Moreno hits the tire rolling onto the track and is
Try and get back.
and his front wing comes off. And now Danny Sullivan with a suspension issue. As if it is planned out. The moment Moreno gets an issue, runs into that tire, Danny Sullivan, his suspension gives up. And, yeah. That is a very curious thing to happen there. But Moreno will come in for a wing change here. And he will come out of the pits now as that is Ross Cheever coming past. That actually means now that Moreno has some good fresh tires. He won't be fighting anyone, I don't think. But Stefan Johansson now into 6th position, so could be a double points finish here for the Arrows. As we'll wait and see. With 11 or so laps to go for most of the cars. 9 runners remaining now. And yeah, Matsumoto now right onto the back of Prost. And as we predicted, Matsumoto will be, well, I think getting past Prost fairly easily. We'll have to see, of course. Yeah. Matsumoto is showing some good pace here. Obviously, still far behind his teammate. Had to make another, an extra pit stop, of course, so it hasn't been an ideal day for Matsumoto here. That issue early on, which obviously made it so that he was stuck in traffic for quite a bit. But now, yeah, displaying a lot more pace than the McLaren in front of him. And right onto the back now of Prost. Let's see when he will make the move. Will it already be in the hairpin? Has some good slipstream here. Let's see, does he move to the inside? No, not yet. We might see it happening now here, coming out of the hairpin down to Spoon Curve. And he creates a lot of overspeed here. Let's see, he's gonna move to the outside, which turns to the inside for the spoon. And he does move ahead of Prost there, but I'm sure in Prost's mind he's just managing the car until the end. I'm not quite sure if he's aware that he'll be a world champion regardless of his performance here, so... But yeah, Matsumoto showing superior pace here. McLaren's still kind of holding on into the slipstream, but I'm sure Matsumoto will be creating a bit more space here. He'll have a lot more braking performance and a lot more traction coming out of the corners, so... maybe we'll see here. Matsumoto could have some pace to maybe catch up to Senna in front, but I doubt it, to be honest. He'd have to be, well, probably about 2 seconds a lap faster, which is very unlikely, of course. But meanwhile, Roberto Moreno running in a solid 5th position. Same with Stefan Johansson. Whoa, Ayrton Senna running one of the back markers off the track. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but Bernd Schneider definitely getting hindered there by the Lotus of Senna. Nigel Mansell now in a solid 8th position. Jeff Lees up into 9th, so a top 10 there for the Williams. Bernd Schneider for Zach Speed just outside of the points, so if something goes right here, they could score some very decent position. Yes, could score some very decent points. And still coming through. Johansson, yeah, 6th. Ross Cheever now 25 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna, the next car. And we have KG Matsumoto, who I kind of want to follow through. Kind of see what lap times he's pulling out of the bag. So yeah, while he is faster than Senna in front, it's only about half a second a lap. So yeah, no chance of Matsumoto catching up to him. That's obviously some blistering pace. And the fastest lap, yeah, so in the meanwhile, the only car getting into the 44s has been Ross Cheever. So superior pace here from him today, and shown by the fastest lap. There's 9 runners remaining with 8 laps to go. Bernd Schneider still trying to make his way up to Johansson, and let's actually compare some of the lap times. Schneider is doing 48.3s, Johansson 47.6, so very little chance here for Schneider unless something unfortunate happens for the arrows for him to actually score some points. But a very solid effort, of course, for Zach Speed. And Zach Speed in 8th position here, with their nearest rival, March, catching up now. So Mansell, I think, actually, let's take a look at his last lap time. He's been doing 47, so about a second, more than a second faster, actually, than the Zach Speed. But yeah, Mansell actually in a better position to score points. And obviously Zach Speed and March, only 2 points separate them in the Constructors' Championship. And yeah, that is all there is to it. So points for any of these teams could be very important. Comes to the end of the season, but we already know Zach Speed has, well, improved massively over previous year, where they failed to qualify even most races, but now they are they're not quite in the midfield, but they are they've scored 8 points so far this season. Had some decent results, and they've done a fairly good job of getting their car at the end of the race. Nigel Mansell now really showing some pace here, nearly onto the gearbox of Schneider. And obviously it's not that meaningful of a position to be in 7th, but of course, should there be a late dropout here for one of the teams in the top 6, Nigel Mansell might be able to pick up a point. And for March, that would mean 1 point closer and only 1 point away from Zach Speed. So could be a nice little battle here towards the end of the season between those two. And then obviously we still have kind of the best of the rest battle going on between Minardi and Lotus. Minardi on 44 points, Lotus on 40. And they'll both score some good points here today. But yeah, Nigel Mansell now with a good move, getting past that Zach Speed. Will the Zach Speed come back at him though in the slipstream? I think it will. Schneider now putting up a fight. Is he gonna move to the inside? No, he won't. Will he try and move into the chicane? No, he pulls to the inside. Nigel Mansell trying to cover it off. They go side by side. Mansell actually running off the road there. And impeding Schneider a little bit even. But he does get ahead now, and will that be the end of that fight? So, bit of an awkward situation there in the chicane, where wasn't ideal for both. I do think Mansell now has the advantage, and he will pull away. I think Schneider realistically only had that one chance to re-overtake. That would have been it. Matsumoto still running solidly in 3rd and now has separated himself a lot from Prost, 6 seconds or so between the two. And then yeah, back to the standings, obviously McLaren looking very good here with Prost in 4th. Ending that Constructors' Championship. Obviously we talked about Prost picking up the Drivers' World Championship here today, and for the rest, yeah, big battle between Minardi and Lotus. Only 4 points between them for the end of the season, so one of them DNFs the next one. It could be a very close battle still, but as it stands, with Ross Cheever in 1st and Matsumoto in 3rd, it's actually very likely that Minardi will end up beating Lotus at the end of the season, and they still have a fairly decent chance here to beat Ligier, because obviously they'll pick up 9 points together, combined with the 4 points if Matsumoto finishes as well. They'll have a 13 points gain here for this race, which would put them 3 points ahead of Ligier, since Ligier doesn't have a car finishing here. So the best of the rest position, so for P3 in the Constructors' Championship, would be between Minardi and Ligier, with Minardi as it stands, and if the race would finish like this, they would be 3 points ahead. Yeah. And so yeah, that could be an interesting battle as well for the last race at Adelaide, of course. And Adelaide, always a fun race to watch, the street circuit in Australia. Always a very nice racetrack to go through, I think, myself. Has those nice curves where the car kind of lean onto for most of the corners, and just an exciting racetrack. But yeah, so will be a big battle between Ligier and Minardi, and then Lotus can kind of be in the mix for that as well, but they'll mainly be gaining points onto Ligier now, as they'll get 6 points from this race if Senna finishes. They'll put him only 8 points behind Ligier. So yeah, still everything to play for that P3 in the constructors, and then Arrows and Benetton is quite close. But the way it stands here with Moreno and Johansson being both inside the points, they could extend that gap to 9 points. So that would make it almost virtually impossible for Benetton to still overtake them. Then the fight between Tyrrell and Benetton, 4 points in that. Fight between Zack Speed and Tyrrell, only 3 points in that, and March as well, 2 points to Zack Speed. So then at the back, of course, we have Williams, who have just been, well, incredibly unfortunate, and just not had the package here to challenge any of the teams in front of them. In the meanwhile, though, Ross Cheever, incredible performance, nearly half a minute ahead of the, well, what was tipped to be the next world championship, Ayrton Senna, or the world champion. But unfortunately, we do already know that's not going to happen because of the DNF of Ferrari for this race. We know the Drivers' Championship is sealed, but Ross Cheever is gonna have a nice hop up into the championship here, as I think, as it stands, if he finishes like this, he will be in seventh in the Drivers' Championship, I believe. But yeah, that would be quite an incredible feat here for the young American, with only half of the races attended for him. Well, not even half of the races. He's only done 5 races so far, this being his 6th, so only about a third of the races done, a bit more. He's managed to put himself in a very solid position in that Drivers' Championship, and then, well, from what I understand, I do think Minardi is very keen on retaining him for the next season, and I'm sure Cheever will be happy to work alongside of them with the opportunity he's been getting. Obviously, he's only gotten an offer from Minardi for this season, and I'm sure Cheever will be keen to re-sign with them if he can. And Schneider here had an electrical issue, had to come in for an extra pit stop. Only 3 laps to go, but he will be able to get past Jeff Lees here, as well, Lees on much older tires, only having made 1 pit stop. Schneider now on fresh tires for the last 3 laps. He'll just be able to speed past, I'm pretty sure. Jeff Lees, once again, great performance from him, dragging that Williams up into what will probably be a 9th position, but let's see here, as Schneider now getting onto the back of him. And you can see Zack Speed with a lot of extra straight line speed here. Oh, and Lees blocking it off, going into Spoon Curve, and then coming out of here. I'm sure we'll see the Zack Speed get past. Yes, he pulls to the inside. Lee's not gonna cause too much trouble here. as they head to 130R. Let's see. Neither able to pull past before the corner. He does cover off a little bit. Get through the chicane. And now will separate himself from the Williams. And meanwhile, Anna Prost still in 4th. Matsumoto in 3rd. Not actually gaining too much to Senna. Mansell running in a solid 7th position. Unfortunate for him that he doesn't pick up any points here today, but a very, very solid performance for him. And we have both of the arrows, of course. So Moreno and Johansson. Will we finally see a double finish for the arrows here today? It is likely. It is likely. I think they've managed a double finish, well, quite a bit of times actually. If we look at the past, I think they've managed 2 double finishes 4 times already this season. So one of the few teams, I think, that has managed to get so many. And not necessarily always in point scoring positions, but you know, getting the car to the end is already a big feat here in the current year. But the cars are still heavily unreliable, and yeah, some work has definitely gone towards it. Lap 50 now. We'll see here Ross Cheever coming through the hairpin, and as he starts lap 51, we'll go on board with him for the last lap. Senna's still in 2nd, so he'll pick up a nice haul of points here. He'll put him closer to Hoshino in front, who's 3rd in the championship. That'll be good to see. And yeah, like we said before, it'll put him closer to the Ligier squad in the Constructors' Championship. Oh, let's go now to Ross Cheever as he starts the last lap of the race in the Minardi. His very distinctive helmet with the blue top, the red side with the single star on it, representing the US flag, of course. And maybe that star can also have a different meaning. Maybe for us as a viewer, as a commentator, it could potentially be a look into the future, as I'm sure Ross Cheever will be one to watch, and he has very, very good potential for the future. And one last time, he is gonna head up to the spoon curve. As he heads through it, navigates it really well, nice and clean, then down the long straight, which I guess we could call the back straight. And then there's a little kink coming up, 130R. Should be able to take that at full speed, definitely on low fuel. As he heads through it there, one last time through turns 16, 17, 18, the Casio triangle. And as he heads on to the start-finish straight, Ross Cheever for Minardi will bring in another victory. And I'm sure Martijn de Knecht will be incredibly glad.
Fantastic drive, great job.
And Cheever comes past now. Incredible for him. And Roberto Marino will already come across the line in 5th. Senna now in 2nd, coming through the chicane, so very well done. Senna actually managing to get to the end, which is something we haven't seen too much of. But when he does pick up points, and a nice podium position for him as the second Arrows comes through in 6th position. So doubles points here today and a double finish for Arrows. Very nicely done. Eiji Matsumoto, the second Minardi, so a double podium here today for Minardi. Again, Martin de Knecht will be elated. Nigel Mansell with a very respectable P7. I'm sure Cozy will be happy with that. And here comes our driver's world champion, Alain Prost, picks up his third in 1988, and he will go into the history books to be one of the few people that has won a third world championship. So the professor has been dominating this whole season and has not even finished outside of the points once if he didn't DNF. And yeah, that is the Drivers' Championship done. And McLaren coming scarily close now to picking up that Constructors' win as well. Meanwhile, Bernd Schneider very respectable in P8. Jeff Lees in P9 for Williams. Very well done by him as well, by the way. Very respectable. Take a look at the full race results. Obviously, Ross Cheever picking up that win for Minardi. Senna 30 or so seconds behind for Lotus. Then comes Matsumoto, the last podium position for him. Then comes Prost, our newly crowned world champion. Will be celebrating in Japan in front of that crowd. And, well, incredible to see him pick up his third. I'm sure he has plenty of potential to pick up even more championships in the future. And Moreno and Johansson, 5th and 6th for Arrows. Then comes Nigel Mansell for March in 7th. Bernd Schneider, 8th for Zach Speed. Jeff Lees for Williams. Then we have some issues with Danny Sullivan, McLaren in 10th with a suspension failure. Hoshino in 11th with a throttle issue. Nelson Piquet in 12th, engine issue. Jerry Boutsen 13th with a water leak. Al Unser and Michael Andretti 14th and 15th, unfortunately, both having a bad spell of luck here for Tyrrell. Then Benetton 16th, Eddie Cheever in 17th for March. Fittipaldi, unfortunately, DNFing and putting him aside of any chance to win the Drivers' World Championship. Very unfortunate to see, of course. 19th will be Satoru Nakajima for Lotus, going out early with a puncture. Jeff Brabham in the Williams with a water leak, going out very early as well. And similar to that, Teo Fabi and Mika Hakkinen going out with a suspension and transmission failure, respectively, both going out very early. And yeah, that was an incredible race. Not as much as attrition as the last one, as we have 9 finishers here today. Obviously, incredible performance for Ross Cheever, and we will remember round 15 in 1988 as the round that Alain Prost picked up his third world championship. So with that said, let's go to the last round next time, which will be in Adelaide to close the season off. It's been a great season, and I'm interested to see how it all plays out as we get to that last round. And then obviously I'm very excited for that next season as well. But we will see you next time in Adelaide. Goodbye.